Hello everyone, it's Colonel Fancy here. Sorry, it's been a long time since I've been on camera doing something, but I've been awfully busy a lot, and I wanted to make this video because I really waited a long time to talk about King of Fighters. I meant to do this for KOF 14 when it was rolling out, but I lacked the supplies and the hardware and the know-how, and it just quite never happened. So one of the other reasons why I wanted to hold off talking about King of Fighters 15 is because I didn't really just want to talk about character trailers or speculation. I mean, there's really only so much you can get from a trailer, and there really isn't a lot that you can dissect from the game. So I figured I'm going to wait until SNK pulls something a little more substantial, and it'll give me something to actually talk about, because you're not really going to get anything out of simply watching a character do a couple of moves. You can't really get a read on the mechanics. You don't really know what it's going to be like versus mode. We don't have an HUD. The whole release date thing never really bothered me. For that matter, I expected the game to get delayed until 2022 just because of, reasons. But with the Gamescom trailer that was just a couple of hours ago, we finally got some pretty good details. It's too bad it was spoiled by the leaks, but it's the culture of what we live in. We can't have surprises anymore! With the Gamescom trailer, it really does look like that with this edition of King of Fighters, it looks like that KOF has made some pretty good decisions. Still some personal decisions that I would like to see, but I'll get more on that later. I just wanted to talk about a handful of things in regards to this. First off, the game is going to launch with 39 characters. I approve of that. Now, there's this whole debate that I saw on Twitter a couple of days ago about whether... No, it wasn't a couple of days ago. It was like a couple of hours ago, but it's this debate about whether or not a giant launch roster is better for your fighting game. Because if you look at something like Street Fighter V, which launched with 16 characters, which, okay, that's actually kind of paltry for a fighting game today. They added on that throughout the seasons. King of Fighters 14 launched initially with, 50 characters? That's insane. And I feel that this is going to go, and forgive me if it sounds like if I'm tackling these things out of order, but I feel like that some of the things that I think that is doing right with this game is good for King of Fighters and its scene in general. Because I'm going to talk about... I don't know how to break this down in any real orders. So again, forgive me if I'm all over the place here with this, but there's game appeal, how to get people to want to play it, and what will keep people playing it. So, the initial thing, again, going back to the roster. I think 39 characters is a pretty good base point. I think I'd said on Twitter a couple of months back that if KOF 15 launched with 36 characters, or 34 or something like that, I'd be perfectly fine with that. You can easily make seasonal DLC add-ons with that, because that will give you roughly 8 teams to work with. Yes, I'm not doing proper multiplication in my head. It'll give you maybe somewhere within the ballpark of 8 to 12 teams to work with, and you can easily mix and match 30-something characters. I mean, I would even debate that going with a smaller KOF roster will make the game easier to balance upon initial day one, because KOF 14 day one was really an unbalanced mess. And if you fought the day one Nakarurus and Iris, oh yeah, that wasn't fun. So I think that starting out with 39 characters, and it looks like there's going to be a handful of new characters, that's cool. Okay, as far as the roster itself, I'm alright with it. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with any of the things that they had. I'm a little upset that we haven't had a new character trailer by this point. Okay, maybe upset is a little strong. I'm just a little nonplussed that there hasn't been a new character trailer. But it looks like that they were really proud of some of the builds of some of the characters from KOF 14, and they wanted to implement that into this one, and I'm perfectly fine with that. It was great to see Shizuru. Shizuru coming back was fantastic, and Team Orochi. I think it was just great to see them again, because it's been so long since they've appeared in any game, even the Dream Match games. I don't think that they've appeared since math in here, 2,000, something like that. I think like Dream Match. I don't remember if they were in KOF. It's been a long time. So yeah, a little disappointed that I haven't seen like a brand new character yet, or at least have gotten a new trailer by now. But with the leaks, we saw at least 2 new fighters that are going to have ties with Shun-A and Meitun-kun, who are, of course, their team leader, or at least the veteran on their team, is going to be Benimaru. That's going to be fascinating. I mean, Benimaru has jumped around from different team members because he's an agent character, and I was expecting him to actually be on Team Agents. I thought that they're going to partner him up with, like, Mary or Whip or something. And then there's, like, some redesigns for some characters, like Antonov. I love Antonov's new look. He was a character that I didn't mess with in the last game. I thought he was kind of boring looking, and he just sort of had, like, fighting style, I guess, can be best described as a strongman Japanese pro wrestler. You know, you just bring in a big muscle guy into, like, all Japan wrestling, and he just does power spots. That's, like, kind of what he looks like as far as his fighting went to me. Now he's got the superstar Billy Graham getup. You give him a feather boa, he can hang out with Bass from Dead or Alive. So, big improvement on that look. Something I don't like. Why is he King of Dinosaurs again? Why is he the King of Dinosaurs? It was revealed in the manga that he was Tizak, and that he was pretending to be King of Dinosaurs because he was trying to do a heel turn. The comics are supposed to be continuity, so I thought that that was kind of stupid. Grave oversight. Read your material, you dorks. So, then there was the other important thing, and it's probably the biggest, and you can debate online about whether it's not. The announcement of rollback netcode is a good thing. I know that delay-based is possible to play with, but rollback gives you certainty, and again, going back to games like Street Fighter V, even though the game is written with bad netcode, I think that the rollback on it was pretty promising. So I think that KOF, which is going to be a game played in multiple different regions, and especially if it wants to have any impact here in the United States, effective rollback is the way to go. Of other things, we finally got a look at the game's HUD. I do like the display. I think it lacks a little bit in style, but I think it's more going to make up for it with effectiveness. And I'm glad that now we have what looks we have the max mode bar, which is separate from your super meter. So that's another thing that they borrowed from Street Fighter, and I think that that's a significant improvement. And again, while it lacks a little bit of flair, I think that it's great that the colors are eye-catching enough. It gives you just enough visual information so that you're not lost. It's concise. The colors are basic. They're very distinct. You can see it, and that works for me. The menu bars, again, and I'm going to trust that activation is the same. I mean, Oda was proud of his work with Street Fighter 4, so I wouldn't be too surprised if a lot of that philosophy was implemented into this. Speaking of the philosophy, I feel like that the general gameplay, it's going to feel very similar to KOF 14. Now, you can probably call that a dig or not, that people have been calling it KOF 14 Plus. I'm still going to call it that, because that's exactly what it is. I think that this game is more or less a cross between a progressive story arc game as well as a dream match game. I mean, with the verse arc, it meant that possibilities are endless, and some of the matchups that we probably couldn't have gotten in previous games are now going to be done. And I'm okay with that. And again, I'm kind of hopping all over the place here, and I didn't really mean to do that, but going back to the animation, another reason why I do call this KOF 14 Plus is because when they were developing KOF 14, the game, of course, was done on a pretty low budget, and funding was pretty limited, so SNK didn't want to run the risk of trying to use Unreal Engine 4 on it. However, because they've had some success with Samurai Showdown, it looks like that they were comfortable with giving this a go and seeing if they can adopt KOF's fast-paced combat using Unreal 4 without any risks. So their own homegrown engine, while it was promising, they just lacked the resources and the funding in order to use it effectively, which is kind of too bad. I'm actually going to miss some of those character models, even if the lighting was weird. So by finally redesigning characters, and I've said this on Twitter before, characters like Andy Bogart actually looks human now. He doesn't look like the Stepford Wives Ninja Man. So finally nailed that down. And then there's the other thing with how much the models have improved with a lot of the images that we've seen. Yeah, when they came out, there was a lot of fun made about them with their fruit juicy explosions. Hey, I'm not guilty of that, all right? I still thought that, like, the power geyser and stuff, it lacked personality. It lacked distinction. It just looked like you're being hit with Hawaiian Punch. All of the shots were kind of like in the background, and there wasn't any like dynamic lighting on them. Well, that's gotten improved now. Again, I knew that would improve. It's just the Twitter mob making fun of it. Again, I did it myself just because it's an easy target and I roast things. It's kind of what I do sometimes. So the animations have gotten better. I would have liked to have seen some more hair movement and whatnot, but you know what? It is what it is. I'm really glad that they're proud of what they've done with it. So it's got that going for it. So I think that's another one of the reasons why we haven't seen a lot of new characters, or at least a lot of info on new characters, probably because some of them aren't quite battle tested or like ready to display yet. So they wanted to get some of the fan favorites to see how they look with Unreal Engine 4 before inserting them into this one. And then, of course, there's like a talk about a lot of the modes. Online training mode, yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, I never really used a lot of that back in the day because I have no friends. It's gonna happen. But yeah, so like online matchmaking, and I do hope that the lobby system is kept the same. I mean, based on what it seems like, it looks like it's going to be. So if they keep the lobby system from KOF 14, I'm all for that. And then there's so yeah, overall, I really think that they kind of knocked a lot of the things out of the park with this. As far as the story mode goes, I find it a little funny that people knocked the Maximum Impact style stories that were dabbling more in like aliens and the otherworldly. That's exactly what this arc is. And you know what? I'm perfectly okay with that. I love it when my fighting games are camp, so give me more of that, and I'm cool with it. I'm totally fine with this sort of like campy story involving Shun A, who I kind of like as a protagonist, honestly. I think characters like him and Ash Crimson, they're a little bit of a break from kind of like the broody boys. Because again, I'm not a fan of K-Dash at all. I know that they'll probably get it's like I don't like K-Dash, okay? He's kind of fun to play as. I'm not interested in his personality. All right, he's got flames. He does kicky moves. He says whatever. He's just not an interesting character. I was always hoping that in storyline they'd kill him off and just let Kula Diamond be the captain of that team. She runs the show. She's one of the franchises. Nobody cares about him. I was kind of hoping Ash Crimson would just axe him. I just no K-Dash. Hyo and Eerie, alright, they're staples of the franchise, that's fine with that. But K, I just never was a fan. So I'm going to wrap up some of this with a little bit of the things that I would kind of wish would happen. Maybe? Like, I know that it probably doesn't get a lot of pull, but I still would have liked to have seen a King of Fighters game, a newer King of Fighters game, get a localized English dub. Now, I know that they've dabbled in dubs before, and it was pretty bad, and they didn't like it, and they never wanted to do it again. But I feel like that something like adding an English dub would help broaden appeal. Yeah, it would cost them a little more money, and I don't know what it would do as far as revenue for the game, but the idea of like English voice actors being able to like tweet out their news about how they're working on the game, it'll probably give it a little more traction. It'll make people want to like be interested in a little more, because King of Fighters' problem is that it's having a hard time reconnecting with a lot of people over here in the West. So by having an English dub, it'll be easier to bridge that gap, and it'll like take KOF out of this like niche category of fighting games, because whereas the games have always been arguably deeper than like Street Fighter. One of the reasons why people play Street Fighter and can connect with it is because the characters are very they have a very appealing trait about them, and I feel like with the SNK franchise, they don't really have that. And I think that having an English dub or like an English voice cast, it would help like re-identify those characters for like maybe a new generation of KOF fans. Because if it wants to like really prove itself as being one of the top fighting games on the planet, I mean, it's of course going to play well. It's probably going to play well. I'm not going to blow smoke. I mean, it might play well or not, but it would really help it to give it like a little bit of personality. I mean, it's all in Japanese, sure. That's nice, and some like KOF mannerisms are like some of the things most colloquially known with the game probably won't translate into English, but never hurts to try, and that's what's important. Okay, it's a pipe dream. It might not ever happen. I always kind of hope that it does. Also, since like most of the previous era KOF characters likely aren't going to make it back, I'm still probably not going to get a Melee, even though Nests has been tied back into this. I don't know if Nelson's going to be back. Who knows? Haven't seen a trailer for Sylvie yet. There's a good chance that she might be added as DLC. Time will tell. I'm sad about that, but it is what it is. So, yeah, that was a bit of a ranty, tangent-y video, and I just wanted to talk about some of the things that I saw from this trailer. Again, a good step in the right direction, and I would like to see more. I won't complain too much about what I feel KOF 15 is, because again, I think that they want to do 14 correct this time, and excuse me, I don't know if the mic picked that up, and you know, we'll see what happens. Drop a comment below. Later.